US President Donald Trump has announced a 25% tariff on all car and light truck imports into the country, saying the move would spur growth in the American economy. The White House said the tariffs would raise $100 billion a year. Applying them could be tricky, however, with US car makers sourcing many components internationally, especially from Canada and Mexico. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said she deeply regretted the move. And world leaders have been reacting to President Trump's decision to introduce tariffs on imported cars. Many have expressed deep disappointment and acknowledged the move will hurt their economies.
And this is a direct attack, to be clear, a direct attack. You know, this will hurt us, but through this period, by being together, we will emerge stronger.
Frankly, I'm very concerned about the behavior of the US government with this imposition of taxes on all products in all countries. And I'm concerned because at the heart of it, free trade is being undermined. We must consider what will serve Japan's national interest. We're strongly requesting the US not to apply these 25% tariffs on Japan. There are different options. We have to think about which is the most effective and have all options in mind.
And one of the other countries affected by Trump's automobile tariffs is South Korea, which also exports cars to the United States. Let's get more from journalist Fabian Kretschmer joining me from the South Korean capital, Seoul. Fabian, has there been any reaction from the government to these tariffs?
Yeah, there has been an immediate reaction. The government has organized an emergency meeting that is chaired by Minister of Industry Ahn Dok-geun, and he's meeting together with representatives of all the big South Korean car makers. Before the meeting began, Ahn said that he's considerably worried that South Korean companies will have difficulties in exporting to the US. And to be clear, there was a lot of debate already in the previous weeks and months even that this worst-case scenario could happen, that Trump might impose those tariffs. But now that this worst-case scenario took place, it came as a shock. So it's really, quite a big issue right now here in South Korea.
What is the exposure here for South Korea? How affected could it be?
South Korea is extremely affected. So in general, South Korea is an export-driven economy, and car exports are a big part of it, of what drives growth here. And if you look at the numbers from last year, South Korea has exported cars worth $70 billion to export markets, and half of it, literally almost exactly half of it, went to the US. So it is really quite important. And worst is that South Korea actually has a huge trade surplus with the US. And we all know that Trump doesn't like countries who have a trade surplus with the US, and really a trade surplus that has been growing over the last years. So South Korea is worried that Trump might specifically target South Korea with tariffs that could even go beyond car exports. Yeah.
So a significant hit potentially. Are there any countermeasures that Seoul is thinking of?
Well, I would expect that Seoul would take a cautious approach. Why? Because, I mean, South Korea is very aware that if they take countermeasures, then those could provoke re-countermeasures as well, and this could end up in a cycle. And basically, South Korea is at the weaker side of the negotiation table, I would say, because South Korea depends more on the US market than vice versa. And also, I mean, trade is one thing, but South Korea also depends on the US for security. So everything that South Korea is implementing has to be quite cautious. I would say one strategy that would be thinkable is that South Korean companies will focus on localizing. I mean, just recently, Hyundai, which is also one of the big car producers here, has announced a big investment plan into the US. They want to build a steel factory, for example, that is worth several billions. So I think this could also be one option for South Korean companies.
We'll leave it there for the moment. Journalist Fabian Kretschmer speaking to me from Seoul. Thanks so much.
All right, DW reporter Clifford Coonan joins me here in studio for more. Clifford, automakers have known for some time that this was a possibility, if not a definite thing that was coming. How hard does this hit them?
I think it's going to hit them pretty hard. But then again, we have to see how these unfold. It's certainly a significant escalation in the trade war because until now we've had various countries involved, but this is taking it kind of global now because you're bringing in Europe, you're bringing in Japan. So all the car industries in all of these countries are going to be wondering how things unfold. But as you mentioned in the introduction, things are much more complex now because these supply chains, a car is not just all made in one place anymore. It's bits from all over the place.
That's been building out for decades in the US, right? Exactly.
And so how is this going to unfold? And there was actually from the US government has also been saying that they will have to see how this actually will unfold and how they will implement all of these things.
I guess the thing is with Trump's tariffs, we never really know what's coming, what's going to be reduced. These scheduled to go into effect next week is what he said, I believe April 2nd or 3rd. Let's talk about the auto industry in general. This is not the best time for this kind of measure to hit it. Is that fair to say?
That's right. It's not a good time for having increased prices on cars. One thing that he did say was that they're going to introduce tax relief on buying cars, which is effectively stimulus, actually, when you think about it. So that's going to be a thing where if you, just like with a house, where you get mortgage tax relief. So if they do that, that's going to be interesting. But it certainly isn't a good time for the US car industry. It's struggling with all kinds of issues, global slowdown, and it really could do without it right now. But then again, a week is a long time in Trump's world.
You mentioned this tax aspect to it. Do we know what this means for consumers? Can we say what this means for consumers in the U.S.?
Well, I think a lot of it is a lot of this is about bringing everything back and onshoring everything in the U.S. is about stimulating the U.S. economy. But a lot of economists would argue that tariffs actually have a counterproductive effect, that they will actually restrict growth, and they will make cars more expensive. So I guess it becomes a kind of a balancing act. But ultimately, these are political decisions, not economic decisions. So we have to kind of wait and see how they unfold.
Trump says that this will raise money for the U.S., bring back manufacturing, as you said. Is it that simple?
I don't think so. And the political element is very interesting in this because he's also said that he may offer a little bit of relief for China. And as we know, the prospect of the Chinese market and increased competition with China has been a big aspect of the tariff war. That's because he wants to maybe get a deal on buying TikTok, to force ByteDance, the Chinese company, to sell TikTok to an American company. So you can kind of see there's a lot of classic Trump deals going on, things meant for political effect, but we'll have to see on the ground how they unfold.
Okay, so unclear if this is a cudgel to bring nations to the negotiating table or if this is actually about raising money or bringing back manufacturing. Clifford Coonan here in studio. Thank you so much.